the next one that I was gonna kind of talk to Ron about that I had ideas for is called Sound Bytes, and I don't know. Some people may know this about me, but I'm a huge music lover. I've been a collector and stuff like that of music for a long time, and kind of like a little nerdy about the audio equipment that we use and stuff like that. And so, how an event sounds is kind of important to me, but I think it's important to a lot of folks. And so sound bites will be a segment that we'll talk. Sometimes we will talk tech, and we can talk about the best places to maybe buy some things so that your UpDog event sounds really nice for your players and your dogs. We could also on that segment talk about some unique things that you can do at your event to make it more engaging for your for the teams that are there, like how to use some sound sampling, how to set up your speakers at the event, just things like that, as well as probably we'll get into some music talk too, and maybe have like a track of the month that we want to share with you or something like that. But for tonight, the segment or in that segment, I thought we would just kind of hit. If you're listening to this, just think, what was the last UpDog event that you were at, and just kind of think to yourself, what did that event sound like? What I mean by that is like, was there? Did you know when you were coming up next because you could clearly hear it wherever you were at the event? Could you hear the timer clearly when you were out there competing with your dog, or did you have trouble with that because of the sound at the event? Could you hear what the judge was telling you? A lot, as you guys know, a lot of our games are crucial in getting feedback from the judges during your round. And if you can't hear that judge clearly, that could affect what happens during your round. Another thing to think about when you show up at an event and you're listening, does it seem welcoming? Is there someone on the mic welcoming you to the event? Do you hear announcements about things like a food truck you can go to or whatever? All of those things are perpetuated or facilitated by the sound equipment that you have there and the choices that you're making about that. So in this first segment, that's just kind of what I thought we would go with in this first run of sound bites, would be to just have you guys think, what did your last UpDog event sound like?
That's awesome, Jack. Super cool. I think audio is extremely important when it comes to producing video. The most important thing that you can do is to have high quality audio. Hopefully my audio is coming through nice and clean. I actually got a podcasting mic because audio is absolutely key. And this last weekend, or 10 days ago or something, who knows, whatever, I'm old. The May the 4th contest, May the 4th be with you. We did Star Wars themed thing, and I can't tell you how awesome it was to walk out onto the field with the Star Wars Cantina music going on and the sound effects and spaced out.
Right.
That general vibe was really awesome, and that is I think an important aspect to UpDog. Like every time you guys do that, Jack, and every time we do it, we're not really equipped for it being on the road, although we're trying to be. It's just awesome. Everybody loves it, and it adds a huge level of performance and fun to the event. So I think that's awesome to have that as a featured segment on the podcast. There's a bunch of ways to go with that, tech and best practices and funny sounds and blah blah blah.
Yeah. Anybody that was at, like, just as I was thinking about this segment earlier today, and like some topics, even just a topic of how loud do you need things, and how do you make it so that, yeah, so that like anybody that was at UpDiff, we had 14 speakers across 3 different fields at UpDiff.
All at the same time.
All at the same time, and we had the system, right, and we had the system so that all 14 speakers could be, you know, we could have the same thing running over all of them, or we could break it down so that these are working on this field, these over here are working on that field, and the only thing that they hear is their timer over there versus this timer. So you really had to strategically think about it. Now I realize people aren't putting on necessarily a huge event like that, but the idea that if all you have is one speaker that's pointed in one direction, when you are announcing who's up next, that person is probably not likely right in front of the speaker. So you got to like crank the volume for that speaker so that the person way behind you or whatever can hear. Meanwhile, the people that do happen to be sitting in front are getting blown away. So just little things like that to think about. You know, and it's all under the idea of like, what does your event sound like, and how does that make your competitors' experience good or otherwise?